Hi, I'm Dustin Abbott, and I'm here today to give you my quick review of the Canon RF 85mm F1.2L lens. And this is for Canon's full-frame mirrorless system. I'm doing the review on the Canon EOS R. Now, if you want the nitty-gritty, all the details of my review process and why I came to the conclusions that I did, I recommend that you look at the long format review, particularly if you're interested in purchasing the lens, because it's going to give you the relevant information to help you make an informed decision. However, if you're looking more for an overview and my conclusions, then you're in the right place, and we'll check out how this lens performed in my test. So first of all, when you look at the lens, the first thing that stands out to you is that this is a physically large and imposing lens. It is very close to the dimensions of the Zeiss Otis 85mm f1.4. It is a little bit shorter than the Sigma 85mm f1.4 Art, but it is wider than both of these lenses in diameter. Now, what's interesting about that is that while it's wider in diameter, it actually has a smaller filter size at 82 rather than 86 millimeters. And so they accomplish that by the fact that the filter threads are considerably narrower than what the actual width of the lens is. But as you can see, even on the EOS R body, it is a really robust lens, and it is going to be a little bit front heavy, and so you better have strong wrist if you're going to use this lens for an extended period. And it comes in at right under 1.2 kilograms, 1,195 grams, I believe, somewhere around 2.6 pounds. And so it is a hefty lens for certain. At the same time, however, it is nicely built, even though the exterior is polycarbonate or engineered plastics. It is very robustly designed, thorough weather sealing inside, including a gasket at the lens mount, about 10 seal points at the switches and the rings here, and then there is a fluorine coating on the front that helps to resist moisture and oils. It also has what Canon calls an anti-vibration technology. So when it's designed to where the lens can take a few knocks, which is fairly typical in professional use, and stay optically centered and functional. I think this is a lens that's probably going to wear well and last users for a lot of years. And so obviously that's something that we're looking for, because it is a huge investment at $2,699 US. And we'll try to put that in context at the end of the review. And so physically, you've got a nice lens here. It has an AF/MF switch and then also a focus limiter. And it's worth employing that focus limiter because, you know, in certain situations, if you don't need that close focus, remember at f1.2, the lens can focus down to 2.79 feet or 0.85 meters. And so the focus limiter only limits starting at 1.5 meters. And so it's only cutting off a little bit of the focus range. But at f1.2, each one of those focus possibilities, and there are many of them because the depth of field is so narrow, are eliminated over that range, which does help to speed up the focus speed and allows you to have a much snappier experience. And if you're coming from the EF 85mm f1.2L Mark II, you'll find this to be quite fast by comparison. Now, it employs Canon's ring-type USM focus motor. And that focus motor does give enough torque to drive these very large lens elements with a pretty good amount of speed. However, it isn't completely quiet like the Nano USM or stepping motors are. And so the byproduct of that is it makes a little bit more noise when we're doing major focus pulls back and forth when doing video and recording with the on-screen microphone, as you can see here. On a positive note, however, the Autofocus did a fantastic job when I did portraits. I shot in 3 different portrait sessions with the lens, and in all situations, it locked onto an eye every time. And in doing so, it means that no matter where I composed, I had great focus results. And so that, of course, this is the primary purpose. It's portrait photographers, event photographers, wedding photographers. It's going to be a fantastic tool because of that great Iaf detection, which I presume is only going to get better as Canon continues to develop this tech in future bodies. And so it worked really, really well for that. Now, when it comes to the image quality performance, this is the second lens that I'm familiar with that has employed what Canon calls the blue spectrum refractive optics. It's an exotic lens element, and it is one of the most effective tools I've ever seen for eliminating longitudinal chromatic aberration. That is what you see as either purple fringing before the plane of focus and green fringing after the plane of focus. Byproduct of that, the first one of those lenses that used it, by the way, was the incredible Canon EF 35mm F1.4L Mark II. A fabulous lens, and I've been really excited for them to employ this technology again, and it's been years since they've done so. It is employed here, and you can certainly tell a difference. This lens is incredibly sharp all across the frame, delivering Zeiss Otis levels of resolution, but of course with the addition of having autofocus, having weather sealing, and having a larger maximum aperture. Even at f1.2, however, it is sharp all across the frame, right into the corners. It has incredible micro contrast. Details are beautifully rendered, and it's really when you look at a pixel level that you appreciate how much everything is really just popping right off the page. Fantastic. Gets a little bit better at f1.4, a little bit of a vignette lift in the corners, and by f2, vignette is basically a non-issue, and from that point on, resolution is at levels that are rarely seen. It really is incredibly sharp. It also has very nice bokeh. However, there is a kind of a bokeh specialty model called the DS that is coming shortly, and it employs some kind of special coatings that are supposed to make, DS stands for defocus smoothing. So let's parlay that by saying nicer bokeh, and that is essentially what it's designed around. I'm not quite sure how the technology quite works. They say that there is about as far as the light gathering potential, it's about 1 1/3 stops less than this lens. However, they equal out around f3.2. So somehow this coating, the way that it works, it produces that kind of effect. So I haven't reviewed it yet. I haven't seen it yet. I don't know that many people have. However, if you want even better bokeh, there is another model coming, so long as you're willing to pay an extra $300 for it, putting it up in the $3,000 US range. And so, you know, nice bokeh and then incredible resolution. Flare resistance is fairly good. Fairly good in that you have a lot of control over what you're going to do. At wide apertures, it will have some veiling that I think is quite artistic and useful. I employed it for a number of my portraits and like the effect. However, if you're stopped down a fair bit, you get more defined ghosting artifacts, as you can see from the video pan here, and that's not so useful. So, you know, kind of a middling grade, but I've never seen a huge maximum aperture full of glass prime like this do really fantastic when it comes to flare resistance. Even the Zeiss Otis, while it's a hair better than this, it still leaves a little something to be desired when it comes to that. So all in all, you have got a very high-performing lens. It's professional grade build, very good autofocus, and on top of that, it has incredible optical performance. And so I promised that I'd give you a little perspective on the price. This isn't a lens for everybody. At $2,700 essentially US dollars, or whatever it costs in your market, it's a lens that's outside of the reach of a lot of photographers. And even those that can't afford it, they might think twice because of such a high price tag. I completely get that, and I do hope that Canon releases a more mortal 85mm option as well in the lineup in the future. At the same time, I do want to point out this fact. This lens has some significant advantages when compared to the Zeiss Otis, and it runs about $2,000 less. We are getting a lens that is performing near the very best possible, at least at this point in time, for an 85mm lens. And it is fully functional, fully useful. There's not really hardly any compromises involved outside of the size and the price. And so if you are all about maximum performance, this is the lens for you. It's probably even worth investing into the EOS R system. However, if you're looking for more of a general purpose lens and your budget doesn't run nearly as high, this is probably overkill for you. You need to make a decision based upon what your actual budget is, what your actual need is. But if it runs to this kind of price tag and it runs to this size of lens, the Canon RF 85mm F1.2L USM is one of the finest lenses I've ever used. I'm Dustin Abbott, and if you would like, you can check out in the description down below. I've got linkage to my full text review and give you lots of information and documentation there. There's also a linkage to Image Gallery that has a lot more photos, and you can look at them for a little bit longer than a few seconds. There's also linkage to purchase the lens, to follow me on social media, to sign up for my newsletter, to become a patron. And if you haven't already, please click that subscribe button right here on YouTube. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.